We actually have an increased risk of dementia that is reversed if you start estrogen replacement therapy in the first 5 to 6 years of your menopause. Estrogen matters. Our brains literally shrink in size during menopause because of the lack of estrogen. So, yeah, it is so important for so many reasons.
Hello, welcome to the Myers Detox Podcast. I'm Dr. Wendy Myers, and today we've got a really good show. We're going to be talking about the risks, the health risk of not doing HRT or hormone replacement therapy. And this is something that I think women should be taking very seriously when it comes to addressing and troubleshooting their symptoms and their stress levels and their sleep. And because I believe hormone replacement therapy to be super important and really one of the single most impactful and highest return on investment choices that you can make to improve your health, your longevity, and your quality of life. And not doing hormone replacement therapy can even, I could go so far as to say, can be life-threatening or have very negative health outcomes. Because when women reduce their estrogen levels or their estrogen levels reduce as they age, they are at much greater risk of having a heart attack, stroke, and from falls and breaking a bone from osteoporosis and die. 50% of women die. I don't know the amount of time, but something within like a year after they break a bone. And so, in the other 50%, like Dr. Tami Meraglia suggests on the show that 50% of women have dramatically reduced quality of life after breaking a bone. And so, just a lot of negative consequences of not doing hormone replacement therapy, but some of the benefits of doing hormone replacement therapy that we're going to talk about today include progesterone, which affects sleep, your mood, your bone health, and that often declines first. And it improves sleep quality and our stress response. Then estrogen, crucial for bone density, weight management, heart health, brain function, skin elasticity, collagen production, reduces the risk of osteoporosis, heart attack, stroke, and dementia even. And with testosterone, that improves energy, mood, libido, most importantly, muscle mass, and your mood. Very important in that, get up and go, having energy, motivation, and making really quick, decisive decisions, which men are so good at doing. And then DHEA also is a really important precursor hormone that many people choose to take. And so we're going to be talking about all those topics and more on the show today. And I have the honor of interviewing Dr. Tami Meraglia. She's an MD and is a leader in functional medicine, specializing in hormones, weight loss, and non-surgical facial rejuvenation. She's also the best-selling author of The Hormone Secret, published by Simon and Schuster, and she's appeared on Good Morning America, Fox, ABC, NBC, and many podcasts and summits. And she lectures nationally and internationally and is the medical director of BioThrive Life that offers personalized medical programs in person in Seattle, Washington, and virtually. You can learn more about Dr. Tami's work at biothrivelife.com. Dr. Tami, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm honored to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, so you are an expert on hormones, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So tell us a little bit about your background and why you decided to focus so much on hormones.
So I danced professionally at a ballet company first for 13 years. And then I went to med school, in my 30s and residency in my early 40s. So, I had a different perspective of everything. I didn't like swallow all the Kool-Aid. I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And when I finished, I was literally in my residency. I had a baby and I was laying on the ground, so exhausted between appointments. And I was like, okay, I'll check my thyroid and my iron and the usual stuff and then, I said to myself the
I'll
same
take
thing. I
some
said,
Geritol. That's what people
right,
are doing
I know,
at
one
that
a
point.
day. Um, and I was like, everything's fine. And I was like, okay, first of all, I'm going to abolish fine because nobody wakes up in the morning and says, gosh, I want to be fine today. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe it's my hormones because there's nothing wrong here. So I checked my estrogen, progesterone, and my testosterone. And I had non-existent free testosterone in my late 30s. And I just dove into the research and realized that there is a lot of information about testosterone for women other than just helping us with libido, which really wasn't my primary concern. I wanted my energy back. I wanted to lose weight because I'd had babies and it was stuck and all of that kind of stuff. So when I went into practice, I thought, I know I'll help people with their liver because the liver is so important for hormones and it's important for gut health and it's important, so important. And nobody had the energy to do the work. And so I thought, okay, maybe if I just give people their hormones that they're deficient in, maybe even temporarily, so that they feel better first, then we can dive into liver health and then gut health and then nutrition and all of these things. And then it was like, oh, all of these people started feeling great. And so that was 21 years ago. I wrote a book published by Simon and Schuster. It became a bestseller called The Hormone Secret. And I really am still to this day feel like it is the key. It affects how we look, feel, and function.
Yes, I agree. My testosterone was 2 and it's supposed to be like 120 or something for women. It was nothing. And I felt that too. I had 0 libido and it's not fun to live like that, and not to mention you have a tough time building muscle, maintaining muscle mass, which is so
Right?
important for longevity and your health in general. And I had you just don't have that same drive or energy. That's why men have so much energy. They're just, overflowing with testosterone,
Yeah. Well, and people don't realize that as women, we actually have quite a bit of testosterone. In our earlier years, it's actually the most abundant testosterone, sort of when you break it down. And so when it leaves, we feel very, very different. But traditional medicine says, oh, it doesn't matter. As if the symphony, like you can just say, oh, the violins don't matter. Like, no, all of the instruments have to work in harmony together. And that's one of my favorite things to help women with is don't hack your health, harmonize your health. You can do little things on a regular basis that are very strategic and personalized so that you can harmonize and optimize your health. I don't want to put on a 25-pound backpack and go rucking up a hill. I'm just not going to do it. Is it probably great for me? Yeah. I'm never going to do it. But maybe I'll put on like a little 5-pound weighted vest and just go for a 10-minute walk after I eat. Little things can add up to so much.
Yeah, and tell me what your thoughts are on hormone replacement therapy because I get one of the reasons I do so many podcasts on hormones and the importance of testing and testing before menopause, and perimenopause is because there's so much misinformation even coming from medical doctors that hormone replacement therapy is harmful, causes cancer, has all these negative associations. And God, I mean, even among my friends who are very intelligent and very educated are being fed this misinformation.
I
And
know.
it's really upsetting.
I wish we could just like shout it from the mountaintops that, I started off thinking, okay, hormone replacement therapy is going to make you feel better and it's not for everyone. And let's use the smallest dose for the shortest amount of time to get you through this period of time of perimenopause and menopause. I have completely changed my stance on that. I think that every woman should be on hormone replacement therapy unless there's a good reason that you shouldn't, which is few and far between. We absolutely know from fantastic research and data that it does not cause cancer. We can even give a woman who had breast cancer vaginal estrogen without increasing her risk of getting cancer again. I mean, it's just so crazy. It protects your heart, your brain, your bones, your skin, your hair, your vitality, your longevity. I mean, I just think there is no supplement, there is no lifestyle hack, there is no nutrition that is going to reboot your ovaries once they've gone into retirement. The only way is to do hormone replacement therapy. Now, that's not saying it's right for every single person. It's not. I believe that personalized medicine is the key. You need to find somebody who listens to you, who goes through all your history and what your goals are and what you're comfortable with, et cetera, et cetera. But there's so many options out there. We have a nationwide telehealth clinic. And, I can't believe how many people are afraid of hormone therapy, or they're taking the contraceptive pill and thinking that that's the best option for you. Taking oral estrogen does increase your risk for a clot. Is it a huge risk? No. But with so many other options, why would you bother with any increased risk? You just need to find somebody to work with that knows what the evidence-based information, and there's a plethora of it. And unfortunately, people say to me all the time, well, why do I have to pay to see a doctor that specializes in hormones or who knows this stuff? Why can't my family practice doctor, my internist, my OBGYN do this? Well, unfortunately, or fortunately,
Well, they don't know
perimenopause,
about this, that
they
sadly,
don't.
they don't know
And
how to
it's
do hormones.
people don't, you don't have health care. You have sick care insurance. And perimenopause and menopause isn't an illness. And so nobody is getting the training, the education, or the awareness. But you are the CEO of your own health. You get to fire your doctor. So go find somebody else who's going to take care of you. You should definitely not know more from social media than your doctor about
Yeah.
hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah, it's a sad reality. You have to go to YouTube and Instagram for a lot of health info. But yeah, the OBGYN, my girlfriend went to her OBGYN. She needs hormones more than I can just can't scream it enough. But she goes to her doctor, and doctor's like, no, you do not want to do hormone replacement therapy, her OBGYN, and no, it can cause cancer, like literally parroting this stuff from the Women's Health Initiative. What is it, 20 years ago or more?
And completely
Retracted,
reversed. Yeah,
retracted.
retracted and clarified and confirmed that no, it does not. I one thing I do a lot is if patients don't want to in are not able to, come see us at our clinic, which we're not the best fit for everyone. You have to find that relationship, somebody who really connects with you and listens. But I teach people how to be in relationship with their doctor. And I always challenge my patients to say, if your doctor says to you, oh, no, 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 you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't do this, or no, I'm not going to order that, or no, I'm going to not prescribe this, just say to them, okay, I respect you, but I really want to know and understand. Can you please provide me the research that you're basing your decision upon? And there is none. There is no research to show that taking hormone replacement therapy is going to cause cancer. So I do this even with cardiologists. You go see a cardiologist and say, okay, let's put all women who have a high cholesterol, which is going to happen to the majority of women as they go through menopause. Their cholesterol is going to go up. Let's put them on a statin. Show me the research where it shows that putting a woman on a statin is going to reduce her risk of a heart attack or death. Doesn't exist. Statins are not the best option for women. And that's one of the few studies that we do have because, most of the studies aren't done on women. We
Yeah.
just assume that we're smaller men, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, for sure.
ridiculous. Did you know that even the animal studies, they don't use female animals or mice
Mm.
or
Oh,
and
wow.
the bias is so ensconced. I was recently invited to the United Nations to a female entrepreneur event in New York City. And they had a whole section on AI. AI is being trained for insurance purposes, for denials or approvals and all kinds of medical stuff on the current system, which is biased against women. So it's going to get worse. We really have to be our own advocate.
So for anyone listening that really wants to detox their body, go to heavymetalsquiz.com. I created a quiz for you. It only takes a couple of seconds. Based on some lifestyle questions, you can get your toxicity score and get a free video series that answers all of your frequently asked questions about how to detox your body. Check it out, heavymetalsquiz.com. Yes, yeah, I know. My mom finally fired her doctor after advocating for that for 5 years because he just wouldn't stop trying to put her on a statin. He even tried to put her on a diabetes drugs, and I said, "Mom, let's get you a continuous glucose monitor." And lo and behold, her blood sugar is better than mine. So she did not need diabetes medication. She finally fired him because it was just crazy the drug pushing that goes on, the pressure. But anyway, so back to hormones. So I started having a lot of symptoms of low hormones in my 40s, my early 40s. I started having a lot of sleep issues, more stress, or more stress responses, and feeling more stressed, and just lots of other symptoms. When looking back, I just needed progesterone, and
Yeah.
I suffered for 10 years with poor sleep. And I tried everything, and I realize now I just needed progesterone, and I wish I had started doing testing because it was on my radar. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
a health professional. I'm consuming lots of content about health all the time, but it just wasn't on my radar at all. To test was like, oh, I'm healthy in my early 40s. So when do you think women should start testing, and based on what symptoms?
Well, it's important for women to know that perimenopause means the start of your hormones leaving you. And our hormones don't leave us in this beautiful turn the faucet off gradually. It goes in spits and spurts. It's like a hose that's got a kink in it. It's like a burst and then nothing, and then up and down and up and down. And that starts in your late 30s. It's really important to know that your symptoms don't have to be consistent, that your symptoms don't have to get worse and worse and worse and worse to be perimenopausal. And so, yes, getting tested is super important, but you need to work with somebody who's also going to put those test results combined with your symptoms and how you're feeling now compared to before. And the test at one point in time may show a normal value. And that's why it's important to get more than one test over time. We have a membership model. And so our patients get tested 3 to 4 times a year. And we take the average and then we combine it with how you're feeling. Progesterone leaves us first and it leaves us fastest. Progesterone's been called the Valium that bathes the female mind. You wake up between 2 and 4 in the morning, wide awake. Like, why am I awake? I don't know why I'm awake, but I'm wide awake. I might as well go pee, but I didn't wake up because I had to urinate. That is a progesterone deficiency. It's so sleep oriented. Like, that's probably one of the first things. And then when you don't sleep, you feel worse.
Oh, everything
The
else is downhill. Your blood
right?
sugar, the snacking, the weight, the this and that. It's just this
Yeah.
perpetual domino effect downward.
And then the other thing that progesterone does is that I say, when my progesterone was leaving, anything that was, mildly irritating to me and my family previously, I wanted to choke them. I just had no tolerance. Now, it wasn't that I was, this violent, angry person outwardly, but it was a much bigger effort for me. I was feeling more irritated all the time. And that was progesterone. I swear to you, if there was a fire in my house, I would grab my progesterone and then my children. My husband can run for himself.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I think people don't realize that progesterone almost works like Xanax, where it helps to make GABA. So, and GABA is the brakes on cortisol, stress hormones, so that you're more relaxed. You sleep through the night, you're not as stressed, you maintain your solitude and peace. And, when I first started doing progesterone supplementation, I was just doing like the little 5% creams. That was a drop in the bucket. And I started doing it and I thinking, oh, I'm doing replacing my progesterone, and I didn't really feel much. I'm taking 400 milligrams a night, enough for like a horse, but that's what I
But
need.
that's not enough for a horse. That's enough for Wendy.
Yes, and like for 5 milligrams, that's nothing. So of
Yeah.
course I didn't feel anything, and I put that aside thinking that wasn't what I needed.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And then there's oral progesterone that crosses the blood-brain barrier better than topical progesterone, so it helps better with sleep symptoms. And here's the other thing that makes me crazy. The cancer, hormones cause cancer. But the other thing is that, oh, I can't afford it. And I, I just get so frustrated when there are a lot of um, functional medicine doctors, naturopathic doctors, people who are in the hormone space say, oh, you need to get your hormones from a compounding pharmacy. Now, I love compounding pharmacies. I use them all the time, but you don't have to. Micronized bioidentical progesterone is available at any regular pharmacy. Costs about $20 a month. Now, it only comes in 2 doses, 100 and 200. So if you need something in the middle, like 150 or, 300, you can still combine to get 300. But if you need 150, then you're going to have to go to a compounding pharmacy. But this is affordable. This is accessible. You do not need to pay hundreds of dollars a month just to get your hormones.
Yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of people perceive that it's going to be really expensive and they can't afford it. But I pay 199 a month for my hormones, and I pay 250 to test every quarter, so every 3 months. It's not that bad. No, it's not that
No.
great either, but it's not that bad. And for the return on investment, it's huge compared to buying 4 bottles of supplements for sleep
Or
or what have you.
osteoporosis medication,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a heart attack or stroke. Yeah, we're able to we can't guarantee that your insurance will cover your blood work, but we use LabCorp and Quest, and so oftentimes people's insurance will pay for their blood work, won't pay for your hour appointment with us. Unfortunately, your insurance doesn't want doctors to spend an hour with you. They just want in and out. Insurance will pay for a 10-minute disease focused appointment, but it is way more affordable than people think. Way more. I think there's all these like, I use GoodRx. There's a lot of these like coupon things, and 1 month supply is $25.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and so let's talk about some of the more benefits of progesterone and what symptoms it ameliorates, and then let's move on to estrogen. Because the bone protection thing with
Yeah.
estrogen is huge, but let's talk a little bit more about progesterone.
So there's the Valium that bathes the female mind, so that peacefulness. We talked about sleep. Progesterone also has a mild diuretic effect. So when you're getting puffy, people say, oh, I'm just puffy in perimenopause and menopause. It could be because of the lack of progesterone. Progesterone also helps in bone health. Progesterone stimulates a cell in your body called an osteoblast. And I always used to remember blast means build, even though blast means like blast apart. I just remembered the B. And so it's stimulating the building of new bone. So that's just also very, very important. And it's the yin to the yang of estrogen. It's the balance of estrogen. And so sometimes when progesterone leaves us first, people are estrogen dominant, and we don't want to be estrogen dominant, which is a relative term, right? You say, how can I be estrogen dominant when I have almost no estrogen? Well, it's because you have no progesterone. So you have more estrogen than you should. So balancing them all together is super important. Progesterone, like you said, interacts with cortisol and your stress response. And so it's just so important in so many ways. And like I said, at least that's first. And you can take progesterone by itself. If you start hormone replacement therapy in perimenopause, you might just be taking progesterone.
Yeah, and so let's talk about estrogen. So, and progesterone also you can take as a cream and you can get that over the counter, but it's usually not going to be as much as you probably need. But it may be a start
Yeah.
and something to experiment with. But really, you want to
It is.
test, not guess.
Yeah. And I always wonder how accurate the over the counter is,
Mm,
like dose per pump. Like what's the accuracy of that?
yeah,
So I
yeah.
liked you're gonna start messing with hormones. I like to know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, exactly. Exact measurement. And so
Yeah.
let's talk about estrogen because one of the
Yeah.
main reasons I want to do hormone replacement therapy was to protect my bones.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of research that shows that women that do hormone replacement, they have less incidence of osteoporosis. Their bones don't break down, or I don't want to say break down, but they just don't have as much incidence of osteopenia and osteoporosis.
For sure. And perimenopause and early menopause is really the time to prevent. Now, we absolutely can reverse osteoporosis and osteopenia in many, many cases. We've done it often, but it's a lot harder than preventing the bone loss. And, women are worried about cancer. That's I think most people are worried about cancer. What they really ought to be worried about as they enter into perimenopause and menopause is a heart attack and stroke, because that's your number one killer now. And number two is osteoporosis. 50% of women who have an osteoporotic break, I mean, usually people know, like, oh, broke a hip, die. And the other 50% never regain their quality of life. It is the most negatively impact thing that could ever happen to a woman.
And you just
And
don't think it's going to happen to you.
no,
You
oh,
just
I
don't.
fell
It's
while I'm skiing and I didn't break anything, so I'm fine. No, you need a DEXA bone scan to see how it's going.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of women don't think about this, especially if they're not consuming a lot of health content, or even if they are, it's just kind of like the last thing they're really thinking about. They're more worried about their diet or taking some supplements or what have you. I think it's just not really at the forefront of people thinking about preventing that.
And I think there's some women who think, oh, I take calcium, so my bones are fine. Calcium is actually terrible for you to take unless you need it. I think people take way too many
Yeah.
supplements. That's a whole other episode. But calcium for a woman that doesn't actually need taking more calcium compared to what they're getting in food can get put into your coronary arteries. And that's a terrible thing. It's not getting put into your bone. Estrogen is what you need to protect your bones. And estrogen is what you need to protect your heart from a heart attack or stroke. It is very anti inflammatory and it really helps the coronary arteries, especially if it started within the first 10 years of your stopping of your period. It's
Yes.
very protective.
Yes, and yeah, I've read research where when women are, pretty much protected from heart attacks until they get into menopause, and then they catch up with men really, really, very, very quickly, and it's just the loss of estrogen and hormones.
Exactly. And dementia.
Hmm.
We actually have an increased risk of dementia that is reversed if you start estrogen replacement therapy in the first 5 to 6 years of your menopause.
Yeah, I was reading some other research that was showing that women who enter menopause, they have a 30% reduction in electrical activity in their brain. And I don't know if that's from estrogen, a loss of estrogen or what, but there's a marked decrease in word recall, memory, and
Brain
in
fog.
brain functioning after you go into menopause, and it's incredibly frustrating. It's been really a struggle with me dealing with that. But the hormone replacement, I feel that I really just started the estrogen probably 6, 7 months ago, and it's been really, really helpful. But I felt like I was struggling before I started the estrogen, and it's humbling. It's humbling when you know what your kind of your intellectual prowess is, perhaps,
Right.
and then you go into this phase and in menopause and transitioning, and I'm not going down without a fight. I'm just not. And so the estrogen for me, I think is important in so many levels.
It really is. Dr. Lisa Moscone is a brain scientist, and she only studies the female brain. And she has massive amounts of research about what happens in menopause. And estrogen matters. Our brains literally shrink in size during menopause because of the lack of estrogen. So, yeah, it is so, so important for so many reasons. And I just feel like it's not that hard. I don't understand why doctors are just being like gatekeepers. You would think that these patients are asking for an opioid or something, like, no, it's super dangerous for you. You can't have it.
This episode is brought to you by Puree Supplements. So millions of people take protein powder every day. And if you're going to take something every single day, it becomes especially important to make sure that it doesn't have toxins in it that will harm you. And so that's why I choose and recommend Puree's PW1 whey protein. Because after all the research that I've done over the years on the toxicity levels in many protein powders, especially plant-based protein powders, I'm very cautious when choosing a brand that I trust. And I personally only take whey protein powder. I don't do plant-based because of the toxin levels. So there's a really interesting study, a new one done by the Clean Label Project that was just published. And it's a study of 160 top-selling protein powders representing more than 80% of the market in the US. And shockingly, or maybe not surprisingly, it showed that nearly half of the top selling protein powders in the US exceed California's Prop 65 safety limits for lead, with a staggering 21% containing double the acceptable amount of this harmful heavy metal. And so this discovery isn't just cause for concern, it's alarming when you're trying to buy something healthy and you're taking it every single day. And as you know, the potential health impacts of lead exposure are nothing to take lightly, ranging from cognitive problems to reproductive issues, lowering IQ in children. So it's really a wake-up call that demands attention that we address on this show. Puree is so committed to create the highest quality products. It third-party tests every batch of every product for more than 200 contaminants, ranging from heavy metals, BPA, forever chemicals like PFAS, oxidation, dioxins, pesticides, bisphenols, and many more. And the results are published online on their website, puree.com, for full transparency, or you can scan the QR code on the product to see the results. And Puree's mission has always been rooted in transparency and safety and virtuosity, even in the product category for any product that they produce. So you can thoroughly trust that any of their supplements are clean and of the highest quality. I would never recommend a product that I don't use personally. And so that's why I recommend Puree pasture-raised whey protein powder. It tastes great. It's super creamy and super delicious. And I also have peace of mind that the products are tested and clean, especially when it comes to the chocolate flavor, which can be the most contaminated with lead and cadmium and other heavy metals. And in P1W, you find real vanilla seeds from bourbon vanilla from Madagascar, which is known for its high quality and amazing taste as well. Each serving of Puree's PW1 contains 21 grams of minimally processed, clean, high quality whey protein powder from pasture-raised cows. So that means it contains no hormones, no GMOs, and no pesticides. No, thank you. I have never seen a supplement line that's this dedicated to the highest level of quality. And so for my listeners, Puree is offering a special coupon code. So you can try it for yourself for 20% off today. Just go to puree.com/Wendy and enter Wendy at checkout. So that's PUORI.com/Wendy and enter Wendy at checkout. Yeah, well, I think a lot of doctors, it's shown that they're about 10 to 15 years behind the research typically. And there's, like any profession, there's some people in any profession, they're just not that intellectually curious and just don't
Mhm.
study on the weekends,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
their downtime. They're not looking for new information or more education. And then but other people they're obsessed with more information, bringing the best care to their patients. And it's just more of a personality thing versus a profession.
yeah. I get it. I get how busy OBGYNs are and doctors. I do. I get it. I'm a doctor. I'm an MD. But um, I think that we have an obligation to at least do some research. And nowadays, you need to do a cursory, superficial scan of the research to find that HRT is safe and effective for women. You don't have to like go deep dive and find obscure research. It's everywhere. And so I really think that I'm not letting doctors off the hook anymore. No. We are literally here to serve. And if you don't want to do it to your best of your ability, then it's time to retire or be upfront and say, you know what, this isn't my specialty.
Yeah.
You know, if you have something wrong, if you have, or you're having a baby or a gynecological problem, I'm here to help you, but this isn't my specialty. I'd like you to go see somebody else. I mean, that would be a great response instead of this misinformation about no, 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 you shouldn't have this. It's going to cause clots. It's going to cause cancer. Like,
Yeah.
stop saying things that are, 20 years old.
I think that's hard for a lot of professionals to do, to admit they don't
Yeah.
know something, you know. But I think it's
Yeah.
also you have to kind of look at who you're speaking to. If there's a resistance there to hormone replacement therapy, perhaps it's just because they don't offer it.
Yeah.
It's not a service they offer, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
Yeah, and, like, when it comes to estrogen, I don't think women realize how important estrogen is for muscular function, because I know for me, I started getting all these pulled muscles once I went into menopause about a year after. I just started pulling muscles and pulling muscles and pulling muscles and muscle cramps, and it was just so strange. I'd never experienced that, except maybe after a really tough workout, but I would go on a walk and pull a muscle in my butt. And I just thought, what is this?" And I didn't think, "Oh, it must be menopause." I didn't think hormones or anything like that. My chiropractor was like, "Oh, go into peptides, get some BPC 157," or, I was looking into steroids. Like, I was just desperate to because I couldn't work out. It was just really affecting my quality of life. And, but I did some more research, and it's estrogen. It was just lack of estrogen, and some women can have
It's,
pain syndromes from lack of estrogen.
well, yes. So, frozen shoulder, back pain, musculoskeletal pain, joint pain that is new or worsened. You get an MRI, it's fine. You get an X-ray, it's fine. Your orthopedic surgeon, your primary care doctor, they're like, well, we don't know. Here's some, take anti-inflammatories, ice, do physical therapy, right? This is what women are being told. We now know there's a beautiful paper published by Dr. Vonda Wright, an orthopedic surgeon, called The Musculoskeletal Syndrome of Menopause. Thousands of women in that study. And when they were given estrogen, their pain went away. It's just a lack of estrogen. Estrogen is so anti-inflammatory. Frozen shoulder. Like, who would have known that that is a symptom of menopause or perimenopause?
My mom had that, and she thought it was just because her dog pulled her arm when she was walking, but you wouldn't have that response when you're in your 30s. You wouldn't get
Right.
frozen shoulder from, like, a mild injury, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. There's so many, there's over like, I think there's almost 70 different symptoms that, it's hard for the person that's experiencing it to say, oh, this must be perimenopause. Like itchy ears. That's a symptom of perimenopause. Frozen shoulder, aches and pains. I mean, I always say, I wish and hope that you get hot flashes. And people are like, that's not very nice. I'm like, no, but at least you're going to identify that you need hormone replacement therapy and
Yeah,
you're
and
going to
maybe
go get help.
maybe you're uncomfortable enough at that point to push you to look into this.
Yes, but if you don't have hot flashes and you just are cranky and you've lost your joy and you can't sleep and you've gained weight and you can't lose it and you have frozen shoulder and your back hurts, you might not look for someone to help you with hormones.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think part of the weight gain in menopause has to be a function of poor sleep. I mean, to a large degree, because, if you're not sleeping well for 10 years leading up to menopause, that is going to affect your
$100.
every organ system, increased, when you don't sleep well, you have increased blood sugar the next day, even to the levels of a type 2 diabetic.
Yeah.
You're craving more foods and you're stress eating more.
Mhm.
Just all that is going to add up to more weight. And is there anything related to estrogen and lack of estrogen and weight gain as well?
Yes. And oh my gosh, I start every day by reading research and I'm so blessed that I love it. So I don't have to like work hard to be up to date. There's some beautiful research that shows that our adipocyte, which is the fancy doctor word for a fat cell, because we go to school a really long time to talk a language nobody can understand. So your fat cell actually has an estrogen receptor. And there's this whole interaction that I won't go into where the the fat cell has this pathway with estrogen that says, oh, thank you so much, this is the key to this doorway that is going to help me go through via a stem cell to make another fat cell, and this is all a beautiful system and we're going to maintain where we're at. And it has a lot to do with subcutaneous fat, the fat that we see that's on our skin, which is not the under the skin. That's not the worst fat. And we might not like it, but it's not the dangerous fat. The dangerous fat is when it goes on top of your organs, which is called visceral fat. When estrogen goes down and goes away, that fat cell doesn't get the proper message anymore. And so it puts the fat onto your organs. And so there is an enormous increase in fat deposition onto your organs, which is so hard to get rid of, which is so dangerous to your health. And there's also another pathway where estrogen is involved in insulin resistance. And so there's about, a dozen ways where estrogen actually is the lack of estrogen is actually going to make you fatter. And it's not easy to lose, that visceral fat. Your tricks in your 20s of moving more, eating less, doing what you did, intermittent fasting, carnivore. I mean, you can try everything. It's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Haven't we all done all that stuff? You're like, what is
Yes,
going on? I would be an Olympic athlete if I was doing this in my 20s. This discipline.
absolutely.
Yes. And so let's talk about testosterone because
Oh, my
testosterone
favorite.
is so important. And when you see men, they have a lot more muscle, less fat. It's so much easier for them to lose weight, to put on muscle because of
Mhm.
this amazing hormone called testosterone. So, what are some of the symptoms of low testosterone?
Well, I have a beautiful quiz in my book, The Hormone Secret. It goes through all the hormones, but it's really about testosterone for women. And you'd be surprised what low testosterone is associated with. And I think for women, the number one is energy, your weight, meaning your fat to muscle ratio, your strength, your recovery, your brain function, and your mood. I call it your zippity doo dah. Like, that zest for life. Women are so good at just showing up. And they have this tolerance of just having a decline in their joy and their zest for life. And they just keep showing up and they keep showing up and they keep showing up. But it takes a greater toll and cost to do that. A lot of these things can improve with replacing testosterone. Now, when you're in perimenopause, you may not need testosterone replacement therapy because you can still give, there's some evidence-based things like Tonga Ali, and you can use maca, which takes the testosterone off of the carrier protein so that it's more bioavailable for you to actually use in your body functions. So there's a lot of things that testosterone will help you do, and you don't always need to use testosterone replacement therapy unless you're further down. Now, the FDA says that, there's no testosterone replacement therapy that is approved for women. We can prescribe it for low libido, hyposexual function. But, we do the GLP-1 medication weight loss nationwide, and I won't let anyone do it without getting their hormones checked because I don't want you losing your muscle. And if you have no testosterone, you are likely to lose a lot of muscle as you lose weight.
Yeah, I agree with that. In kind of perusing Dr. Tina Moore's work, I think it's really important to have your hormones balanced and tested before starting on the GLP-1 agonists for sure. Because you need to have that foundational health first and a lot
Yeah.
of things on your hormones on board before those as well.
Well, you
Um,
can lose weight and look like you were in the hospital, or you can lose weight and look great.
yeah,
And I think it has a lot to do with your
yeah, yeah, for
hormones and
sure.
nutrition.
So what are your recommendations for testosterone replacement? So what are the symptoms that somebody might need that?
Testing. It's really about testing, and because women will not really understand that their low libido, their lack of strength, their lack of energy, all of these things are associated with low testosterone. And I prefer to test free testosterone. The total testosterone tells me how much is there, but not how much is doing you any good. It's like saying, okay, we want to build a house. So the house is on an island. Let's count all the workers that are at the ferry dock on the ferry. No, 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 no. Let's count how many construction workers are at the house with a hammer or a saw or something. Let's count the workers. So that's free testosterone. And we really want to be looking at free testosterone to see if we can optimize it um, or to replace it. Now, there's a lot of women who say, oh, I don't want to have testosterone. A, I'm afraid of getting aggressive. B, I'm afraid of getting too big. Three, I don't want to lose my hair. There's all this stuff. And so that's why you have to work with someone who's going to follow up, not just write a prescription and say, well, call me if you have a problem. Hair loss is possible, but not very common at low doses. And we need to check whether or not it's converting to dihydrotestosterone. That's where the problems lie. So we're really talking about starting at 1 milligram, and maybe not even 1 milligram every day, maybe every other day to start off with, and then rechecking after that. And it's a cream.
And you're usually starting on a super low dose. At
Mm-hmm.
least with my doctor, they started super low dose and they're just very slowly titrating up. So you don't
Exactly.
typically have those symptoms. I mean, I did try pellets the first time and I was like, woohoo, I went on this testosterone roller coaster. Because with the pellets, you really can't control the dose like you
Yeah.
can with a cream or injection or a capsule or whatnot. But yeah, that was interesting. But I love the feeling of being on testosterone. I absolutely loved it. And I didn't really have any side effects. I had a little bit of acne for like a week,
Mhm.
and I just didn't really notice really any negative effects. It was just positive. I know everyone's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you're just slowly being titrated up, typically with all the hormones that they start you on.
Yeah, you don't want to go from this deficient state to optimal overnight. Your body would be like, "Whoa, what did you just do to me?" So it's a go slow, start low, go slow. That's my philosophy.
Yes, and all I can say is I wish I had tested years before because I had a period because I've always worked out, I've always lifted weights since I was a teenager. I love lifting weights, but I'd go like 3 times a week just out of just what I do. And I just noticed that I just was not building muscle. I just felt like for years I was just on this hamster wheel where I was just not making any progress whatsoever. And it was harder to recover. And I got really frustrated because of that also. And I just had no testosterone. It was just zilch. So big surprise that I wasn't getting any results with my workout. So again, for me, that frustration, that low libido, and the musculoskeletal issues, and the lack of sleep. Finally, I broke down. I was searching for answers, but you don't have to wait. You don't have to suffer. I really
No.
encourage women, even late 30s even, just go test just to
Yeah.
see what's going on.
And it's also, there's other androgens, DHEA is important as well. It's a precursor to so much. And there's this thing called cortisol steal. And I'll have women who say, "Oh my gosh, how come my hormones are so low?" And so it's just academic. You just look at the hormone tree and where things go, and your body needs to make cortisol. And there's this, otherwise you'll die, right? If there is a perceived stress, your body will prioritize making cortisol so you can run away and save your life. So there's a system, and it's literally called cortisol steal, which means that the time, energy, and raw ingredients are no longer available to make DHEA, testosterone, progesterone. All these things are going to be in a deficient state because of stress.
I want to thank one of our podcast sponsors, Bond Charge. So they have this amazing red light mask here that I absolutely love. I've been using this for about a month now, and I'm really blown away by the results. And so it's time to step up your skincare this year with the red light face mask by Bond Charge. And I just spend like 10 minutes a day wearing this mask, and it has so many different benefits. It really, really works. So this face mask, essentially the red LED lights penetrate really deeply into your skin. They boost collagen production. It reduces inflammation and eases the signs of aging. So if you want plumper, younger looking skin, if you want to significantly reduce or eliminate acne, blemishes, redness, and inflammation, if you want to reduce pigmentation, if you want to stimulate cellular repair and circulation, if you want to reduce puffiness and help to drain the lymphatics in your face. And for you guys, you can use this advanced LED technology to revolutionize your skincare by tackling razor burn, dryness, fine lines, and dark circles. Like, you seriously need to try this mask. It's amazing. And it's really easy to use. I only have to wear it 10 minutes a day, so you can do it while you're watching TV. While, I just do it at the end of my day right before I go to bed. You can do it, while you're relaxing, while you're in your sauna, whatever you're doing. And I really like it because it's totally portable, so I can take it with me wherever I go. And you don't have to have it plugged into anything, so it's totally portable. And I've seen a really big improvement in the tone and texture of my skin. And I really feel like it's helped. I have a lot of sun damage just from worshiping the sun my whole life. So I feel like it's really helped reduce the appearance of the pigmentation from the sun damage. And really, I feel like it's helped with the like puffiness also that we can get as well. And really like the results of this mask. And so Bond Charge's red light face mask, it's really easy to use to take care of your skin. It's totally painless, and it's not going to heat up your skin or cause any kind of like heat damage or anything like that. And the red wavelength, it's 630 nanometers. So that is used to reduce redness, inflammation, pigmentation, and redness, and it prompts cellular repair and circulation. And the near infrared in this, it's at 840 nanometers. So that targets the deeper fibroblast cells, stimulating new collagen and elastin production, resulting in firmer, plumper, more youthful looking skin. So trust me, you want to get one of these. So try the Bond Charge Red Light Face Mask. You can get it at bondcharge.com. That's BONCHARGE.com, and use promo code Wendy to get 15% off. Yeah, and it's so many women are under just unbelievable amounts of stress. So much pressure on us today to do it all. you know?
Yes, and the sandwich generation, right? The perimenopausal and menopausal women are still often taking care of children and also taking care of parents
Yeah, and
and
working
working.
on top of it. Oh,
Yeah.
and you have to be healthy, and you have to do your workout.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's just no surprise why women have a lot of challenges with their hormones, and it's just not being recognized when they go to the doctor. And then on top of that, what I talk about a lot on this show is all the toxins that affect our hormones as well. All the plastics and the petrochemicals and the PFAS and that dramatically impact our estrogen and introduce a lot of xenoestrogens, synthetic estrogens into our bodies that act like estrogens, and so many things in the toxin world working against our hormones. So there's just an army of things working against our hormones. And even if, I spent a lot of years thinking, oh, I'm going to detox and I'm going to get rid of all these things out of my body that are interfering hormones. I'm going to detox my home and taking, pretty extreme measures. And it's still really, I still needed to go on hormone replacement, because
Oh,
of
yeah.
stress and the other factors. Maybe I factored out the toxin
Mhm.
conundrum, but I still had stress and other just aging, lower production of hormones as you age. So I think even if you feel like you're checking off a lot of the boxes, still really pay attention and test, don't guess.
And another source of toxins is skincare.
Mm.
And it's interesting, there is some research that shows that vaginal estrogen, which is 0.1% used on the skin, will actually increase your collagen.
Yes, I've
And
seen a lot of ads on Instagram for estrogen-based creams for your face.
yeah, yeah.
Very
So,
tempting.
again, I'm not a huge fan of the over the counter versions when you're talking about hormones. Like, do you actually test that you know how much is in that dose and, is it stable? And no, when you go to the drugstore and you pick up 0.1% of estradiol vaginal cream and you apply it to your face, you know exactly, and you and your doctor know exactly how much estrogen you're getting. And if you think about it, you can look at your pictures when you were, 20 to 30, there's some changes, 30 to 40, there's some changes, 40 to 50, there's some bigger changes, and 50 to 60, that's the biggest change, right? And then from there on, why? Because your hormones have gone, psh,
Yeah, you need estrogen to make collagen,
you do, you
period.
do. Yeah, yeah. And there's no amount of bone broth and nutrition and things that you can eat or drink
Yeah, you can't
to
eat your
get
way out
that
of
right.
this. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, eating
no.
all that collagen doesn't necessarily make it deposit into your skin.
Right,
So it just
right.
doesn't always go where you want it to go, just like the calcium.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. So these hormones we started off by saying how we look, how we feel, and how we function. And it's just, I would be hard pressed to find a system in our body that isn't affected by hormones.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I felt like when I was younger, I would read about hormone replacement therapy and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna grow old gracefully. Oh, hell no. When you start having all these symptoms and you it finally dawns on you that it's the low hormones, I think a lot of women make the smart choice to go get tested. But I also had a period in my life where I had the brilliant idea to go vegan for a little while, and I had just had a baby and I had a
Oh,
lot of stress leading up to that in work and whatnot. And I just reached a point where I had a health crisis
mm,
after being vegan for 6 months and a few of these other factors. And I went to my doctor and I had no hormones. I had no thyroid hormones. I had very low sex hormones and very high stress hormones. And so the doctor wanted to put me on hormone replacement therapy at 37. So I actually did do some testing, but I made the decision there's no way hormone replacement therapy is for women in menopause, right? And so that was just the conclusion that I came to, and it was erroneous. It was the wrong decision, and I should have done the hormone replacement therapy that was recommended to me. It was a very good functional medical doctor. But yeah, so I was on the right path, but unfortunately didn't take it because I just had a lot of misconceptions that it was way too early to start hormone replacement therapy.
There's also this thing that I hear out there is like, "Oh, you're like, you age with grace." I hear also like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do it naturally." Well, there couldn't be anything more natural than replacing the bioidentical hormones that are already in your body and are leaving. So, hmm, just think a bit more about what aging naturally is. And it reminds me of those women who are like, there's no prize for having a baby and going through the most pain.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
There is
like,
no
why are
prize.
you
Exactly. I love that.
why would you go through menopause with the most pain? Like for the second time in your life, you're gonna be the best victim. Like, forget about it. Live, love yourself, receive what is available that is safe and effective. And you couldn't age more gracefully than with HRT compared to without.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then just think about all the money people spend on biohacking equipment, to improve
And
their lives.
supplements.
And supplements, and the most foundational thing that you can do for your health before you spend a ton of money on all that other stuff, you have to get the foundational right. You gotta get your thyroid hormones, your sex hormones, your stress hormones, and even I think the GLP-1, which declines with age as well, which starts causing all kinds of problems. I think that needs to be replaced as well after listening to Dr. Tina Moore's work. I think that's something massive amounts of research about the health benefits of that, not just forget the weight loss, just massive health benefits for that. That's a whole other podcast, but that's my personal opinion. After looking at her work and the massive amounts of research she put into that. But yeah, it's just do the basics first before you're gonna investing in all this other thinking all these other equipment and protocols, thinking that's what you need. It's something, you gotta do the red light or the sauna or this and that. You need to do the basics first and then see what's left over to attack.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a big peptide practice. We have a whole peptide program, and I won't put people on unless I have their hormones checked first, because these peptides are often, upstream signals for your hormones, stimulate growth hormone or other things. So PGLP-1, et cetera. So I think that you're doing yourself a disservice if you're going to the trendy, sexy, latest du jour medical hack than, just boring old like, oh, hormone replacement therapy in a customized dose that is made for me based on the data and my symptoms from a doctor who listened to me for an hour. That's kind of boring, but it's also beautiful.
Yes. Well, Tammy, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was so good. I love talking about hormones with experts like yourself because I just think it's so, so important for women to not suffer in silence and suffer in ignorance because they're just really not getting the correct information about hormones and hormone replacement therapy. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you
so
for
so tell us
having me.
about yeah, tell us about your website, your telemedicine program, and
Yeah.
how people can work with you.
So the blessing of the pandemic was that we went telehealth. I used to have paper charts and in person because I'm old. So we were forced to go all electronic health record and then hired doctors with licenses nationwide. And so we can see you from anywhere via a Zoom appointment, kind of just like we are here. And you can get your lab work done either home kits, saliva, urine, or you can just go to any LabCorp request. And we have an offer for anybody who is a first time a patient. You can have a home saliva test and an appointment to go over the results and even prescribe you something, hormones, if that's what's appropriate for you, for $499. So you just contact us at info@biothrive.health. And our website is biothrive.life.com. It's because we want people to thrive.
Yeah, and I think that's so great. I love telemedicine because there's so many people around the world or that live in rural areas in the United States, and they just don't have access to good doctors or functional medical doctors, which they need.
They do. And, I do miss wrapping my arms around and giving some love in person. But it's also nice for people to not have to spend the time driving and parking and all of that. So, and we get to say, oh, yeah, go get your supplement. What are you taking? And what's the dose? And how much omega-3 is in there? So there's some advantages of doing it from home.
Yes. And tell us about your book also.
So I'm very blessed. It became a bestseller kind of before this, craze of hormone replacement therapy and hormone awareness. It's called The Hormone Secret. And like I said, it's really focused on testosterone for women, but it goes through all of your hormones. And it really is designed to support the menopausal woman with some additional lifestyle, nutrition, and supplement things in order to add to your hormone replacement therapy. Or if you're in perimenopause, these are things that you can start with. And there's what labs that you need to be asking your doctor to get, and what's the optimal range that you should, because we don't want to be told we're fine when you're zero point 0.1 away from falling off the range. And there's quite a difference between the reference range of the lab, meaning you don't have a disease, versus optimal. So I wrote all of that in there. We go into meditation and the power of that for your hormones. So there's a lot to unpack. It's like having 10 appointments with me.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's so important for people to get educated about this and really, take that power into their own hands. Just don't let someone say, "Oh, you're not there yet. You're not in the range. Like you don't need the hormones yet," or what have you. Like know your numbers, know the ranges that you need. Take that. I really want to empower people to, know what their labs are and know where that they should be. Because usually the doctors or whoever you're consulting with may not be looking at optimal levels or
Yeah.
hoping to
And
achieve that.
don't let somebody say, "Oh, it's perimenopause, there's no point in testing." Of course there's a point. There's no point in testing once and making a decision based on that and saying you're fine, because it could go down the next month. But there is a point of testing. You need to know where you're at, and you need to do serial testing over time and combine it with your symptoms.
Yeah, there's no point in not testing if you don't feel good.
Right?
I don't.
Like, what's the downside? I just never understood.
Yeah. Oh, well, Tammy, thank you so much for coming on the show. And everyone, I'm Dr. Wendy Myers. Thanks for tuning in to the Myers Detox podcast, where it's really my pleasure and my privilege to bring you this information that I'm so passionate about, educating you so that you can feel good because you deserve to feel good and you deserve to, find those little pieces of the puzzle that we're sharing with you to help you on your health journey and solve your health issues. So thanks for tuning in every week.
The Myers Detox Podcast is created and hosted by Wendy Myers. This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Wendy Myers and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.